I feel like I'm not the only one who has always wanted just a massive Pokemon cartridge. Okay, well maybe I am the only one, but anyways, that's for another day. But I actually need to run to the store real quick to go pick up some lumber. So with this cartridge, I wanted it to be something that I could hang on the wall, so it had to be sturdy. So to start off, I had to make a frame to build all this on top of. To make the frame, I used some scrap cuts of wood, and it was pretty dry, so I did have a couple splits when it came to putting the screws in, but that really wasn't that big of a deal since later I would be adding some wood filler to the whole thing and make it all super smooth for paint. Once I had the entire thing framed up, it was time to add the back side of the cartridge, and to do this I traced out the shape of the frame onto some plywood and then cut that all out with a jigsaw. I stayed just outside of the line as I was cutting it in case I needed to bring it in just a little bit after securing it to the frame. And after it was fully nailed in, I went in with my multi-tool and cut away any of the extras hanging off the side and made it nice and flush fit. I also realized that I wanted to have the bottom section cut out where the cartridge has that slot where the card reader would be rested. So I just drilled out a couple holes and then grabbed my jigsaw and cut that out as well. And then the last thing I needed to tackle for this main body of the cartridge was the front panel. So for this I actually cut out 2 of these same cuts so I could actually layer them. Since the actual cartridge has some little bit of indents, I thought it would be easier to cut out the areas on one sheet and then keep the other sheet blank and then glue it all together. While all this was drying, I printed up the letters that were going to go on the top of the cartridge so I could trace them out onto the actual wood indents. Once that was all traced out, I cut out each of the letters. It was all pretty rough at first when I made the cutouts, but to make everything nice and smooth, I went and grabbed some hand files and carved out everything that I needed to kind of square up the letters and make it as smooth as I possibly could. At this point, I also went in and carved out the side slits that were on the top and the side of the cartridge as well, and then the angled section on the sides towards the bottom of the cartridge. These 2 parts were probably the hardest spots to tackle on this to make it look good. And now the final thing I needed to do before I could really paint this thing was to get some wood filler and round out all the hard edges in the indents and to also remove any of the wood grain that could be visible after I paint it. This filler I have here starts out pink and then turns into a tan color once it's time to sand. And so I did. Once I had everything sanded down smooth, it was time to start putting this thing together. I started off by painting the inside white since once I had it all glued together, there was no magic in my life that I would have been able to paint the inside of it. And I chose to paint it white inside because I was going to actually put some acrylic sheets underneath the cutout letters, so I didn't want any of the brown to be seen through it. I also painted the top before gluing it together because I didn't want to get paint on the acrylic sheets after they were glued on. Once I had it all glued together, I used some more wood filler to kind of smooth out any spots I may have missed the first time I was using it. And then I just painted over all that once again and made it nice and smooth. And now it's time to start painting this thing the yellow color. Sorry that the lighting is so off in this spot, I didn't really realize where I had my camera, but the yellow will show up better in just a moment. Once the paint was all done, I needed to try to fit the acrylic sheets behind the cutout letters. And this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, even with the back cutout. While the glue was setting up, I actually went inside and started wiring up a set of LEDs that would go inside. I thought it'd be really cool to have some lights shine through the acrylic sheets, as well as out the bottom of the cartridge. I didn't do anything crazy here, I just kind of set up the lights in a straight sequence. Now getting these in here was honestly even harder than getting the acrylic sheet in. I barely had enough room with the cutouts to even get this stuff through here. But in the end I was able to fit it all how I wanted it to be. And one of the final touches of this part was adding the little pieces to go in between the letters to not make it look like they're just blobs of letters. Alright, so the final piece was adding the logo. I spent weeks trying to find a place that would just let me print it in the size that I wanted to on one sheet, but I couldn't find any place that would allow me to do it due to, copyright issues and whatnot. So I had to print it at home with 4 sheets of paper. It turned out pretty good, but I was a little sad that I couldn't get it all onto one sheet of paper. But once this is dry, let's take a final look at how everything looks together. Okay, look at this thing. This thing is so awesome. Actually, wait. Now it's so awesome. Look at all the beautiful colors. This thing is so cool. Also, I am so sorry that this video took so long to come out. I've actually been in the process of buying a house, so I've been caught up in that whole thing. But that also means that the studio is moving. That's right, I am moving from this studio to a whole new place. But that also means that this is the last video that is gonna be shot in this studio. It's surreal, but I feel like I just got in the studio. That was almost 2 years ago at this point. I have a lot of big plans for the new studio, so keep your eyes out for some live streams that I plan on doing, showing you the setup and how I'm gonna put everything together in the new studio. But if you like these Pokemon themed videos, make sure to check out either of these Pokemon videos, and like always, keep drawing, and until next time, bye!